Hi, Angel here. Thanks for stopping by. So, some years ago, I was in a Tai Chi workshop for a weekend, and the instructor, I wish I could remember his name, he's a great guy, had a school in Boston that he ran, and he was traveling the country doing these Tai Chi workshop, or Qigong, excuse me. It was a Tai Chi class, but it was a Qigong workshop, which are similar but different. And and this guy was traveling the world, had a school in Boston, doing these weekend um, classes, and somebody asked him, how on earth do you manage to still practice your qigong for 3 hours a day? Is what he told us. He did 3 hours a day of qigong plus other things, and then also he had I don't know, more than 10 published books and more than 10 published videos back in the VHS days, which so I was before it was so easy to publish books and videos. And plus he was traveling around and doing these workshops. So one of the students that I was in the class with asked him, how on earth do you find time to do all that? Like, I can't find time to do half of that, let alone practice qigong for 3 hours a day and do all that. So he told us a story about a teacher who has a pitcher and a bunch of rocks, and the teacher put the rocks in the pitcher till the pitcher was full of rocks, and then he asked his students, is the pitcher full? And they said, yeah, or maybe could pile one more on there, but anyway, they kind of agreed that the pitcher was full of rocks. And then he took some sand and poured the sand in between the rocks, and then he said, is the pitcher full? And the students mostly said yes, now we think it's full. And then he took some water and poured that in the pitcher over the sand and fit quite a bit of water in there. And the moral of the story, the point, which was the answer to the question of how do you get all that stuff done, which is put the big rocks in first. And I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately as a person who has a lot going on, and I aspire to have even more going on in the near future. And in order to do a lot of stuff and not drop all your balls, in order to juggle a lot without fumbling everything, you really need to do a good job of prioritizing and putting the big rocks in first, because your time is like, think of your time like a pitcher, and if you just fill it up with little stuff, like not that water is little, but the analogy holds true in that you put the big rocks in first, and then you can fit the little things, which are like sand, the little chores and things in between the big rocks, your priorities. And then you can actually still fit in some water, or some, maybe that's your free time or your snowboarding time, or your TV time, or whatever it is that you like to do. But make sure that you put those big rocks in your time container, your day first, your schedule, and then actually in your practice. So for me, that's working out every day. I try to play my guitar every day, although some of those goals don't actually happen every day, but every day I try to hit them, so that probably at least 5 days a week I hit them. Sometimes in my life, I've gone years without missing a single day of all my goals, and this last year I've missed quite a few days, but I still always pull myself back to that standard, and it keeps me, fitter and happier, and achieving my goals more than I would if I didn't put those big rocks in first. So for me, my big rocks are taking care of my body. That's eating right and working out and sleeping well, and also keeping my mental state. That's actually probably the most important thing that I've been working on lately, is my mindset, and catching myself if I'm telling a negative story or I'm complaining either out loud or in my own head, and just flipping the switch on that, stopping it, find something to be grateful for, expressing my appreciation to the people in my life that I appreciate, and stopping myself when I catch myself complaining. And I still do. I go through cycles, and many people that I spend time with actually complain quite a bit, and it's amazing to me how quickly we'll start to complain also if we're around somebody who complains. So I've made a lot of effort in the last 5 years or so to spend less time with people who complain, and spend more time appreciating and being grateful and expressing that. It's one thing to think it, and that is good, but saying it out loud, even if it's just to myself and then also to the people that I appreciate, is a really powerful, really important piece of the puzzle, I think. So for me, that's a priority, because relationships are one of my priorities. So I make sure that I touch base with my mom and with my son every week, because those are priority relationships for me. And I make sure that I do a little work on my art every week, because that's a little bit less high right now, but still on my priority list. And I make sure that I ship orders that are due every day, because that's a priority to run my business well. And those are my big rocks. I try to play my guitar every day, or at least put some energy into my songwriting. So those are the big rocks, and your big rocks are probably most likely different from mine. So the point is just figure out what your priorities are, and then put those in your schedule, put those in your day first. Don't, I don't know, there's an alarm going off out there. Don't fill up your day with random frivolous things, like little, like time wasters that don't get you any closer to your goals. Make sure you get all your big priorities done that get you closer to your goals. And then if you want to, you can fill in with some free time or some playtime. In my case, playtime is actually one of my big priorities. So I've worked that in, where I make that, I make sure that at least once a week, usually, if not sometimes twice a week, and every now and then I miss a week. But I try once a week to take a day, at least a half day, and play, basically, either snowboarding in the winter or kayaking in the summer, or working on my project. Sometimes I count that. It's, it's your story, so you get to make it up however you want. I'm making mine up the way I want, but however you're making up, I can tell you, if you put the big rocks in first, as in make your priorities the first thing that you put into your schedule, and maybe the first thing that you do during the day, because sometimes the day can get away from you, even if the things are in your schedule. I know from experience that can happen. So anyhow, make sure that you get your big rocks taken care of, and then the little stuff is like extra. You might get your errands done, and so that's a perfect. I was about to say you might get your errands done. I started to say it. I interrupted myself, but errands are a perfect example of something that isn't a priority every day, but some days it becomes a priority. Like today, I needed to go get some pet food, and so it became higher on my priority list, so I went ahead and put that in, whereas yesterday it was less high, so I didn't do it. Instead, I took time to spend some time off, actually, which was really nice. I don't do that super often, but I had a friend come in from out of town, and that's a perfect opportunity for me to give time to my relationships, which is a priority for me, and take advantage of some downtime at the same time. So I did that. I'm glad I did, and I'm getting back to my main priority list now, putting my big rocks in first. So I hope you're doing the same. I hope you're getting your priority list taken care of and your big rocks in your schedule first. And if not, just try it. Just change. It's easy enough, just try. If your life isn't working for you, if you don't like your life story, make a change. See if that gets better or worse, and then adjust accordingly. We are amazing, adaptable machines. I use the term frivolously, perhaps, but I do think of my body like a machine that can do a whole lot of things. And so it's easy to get distracted and carried away doing things that take me away from my goals instead of toward my goals. So I try to remember daily what, I say them out loud. I write them often, I read them often, and I say them out loud, and that really helps me. Maybe you have a different technique. Maybe you need to say it to somebody else, or that helps me sometimes too. But mostly talking to myself, talking to you on YouTube, and reminding myself what my priorities are really does help me keep on track. And I will remind you that we all fall off track sometimes. So even as I'm telling you about how to keep your priorities, put your big rocks in first, and keep your priorities straight, I am a living, example, as are you, I'm sure, of how things don't always go as planned. We fall off our track, our plan, pretty often, some of us more than others. But the key is to know what your track and your plan is, and to get back on it as soon as you realize you've derailed yourself. So that's my 2 cents for tonight. I hope you're taking care of your priorities and enjoying it all. So next time, peace, prosperity, and positivity.